everybody was here. Let's fucking go. The best advice is to not overthink it. Start small, understand who you're serving, challenges that the people that you're serving are trying to address, and help them. You don't have to be liked, but building community around a problem in your company, I think it's important. SDRs aren't getting enough love. So we have a space just for SDRs because we believe SDRs are the most important part of the org. So our space treats them like that.
First of all, super happy to have you here, Jared Robin. I think you're most known to everyone out there in the sales community because you have built one of the biggest sales community, which is RevGenius. For everyone who's not yet part of it, I suggest you to join it. Super happy to have you. We had a collaboration on the HubSpot social selling ebook, hence why we have 5 fire questions for you. And the first one would be, what's your best advice on community building?
The best advice is to not overthink it. Start small. Understand who you're serving, the problem that or the challenges that the people that you're serving are trying to address, and help them. This doesn't need to be at a grand scale, like on a Slack or a Discord or throwing a ton of people in there. It could be something as simple as having a DM with a few people in it on LinkedIn or Twitter or hopping on a Zoom. The key is to speak to the folks and to give to them, understand how you could best support to them.
Yeah, no, I completely d'accord. I think 3 years ago when we started with Surfe, we went on Facebook groups, and just were saying, hey, we're looking for salespeople, SDRs, as we are not coming from sales. We have a lot of questions and we are building something, and a lot of people actually wanted to join this and build together with us. That's how we get the first users, which are now our strongest ambassadors as well, and still users. So I think it's good advice. We started also only with 20 people. Cool. So the next question is there anything similar between communities and sales?
So there's something similar between communities and community building and good sales. The similarities are really wanting to understand and empathize with the other person and the challenges that they have. When you do that and you deliver a solution, and you're thinking even away from your business model that you might have, you build a magnetic connection with them. So when you good sales, you honestly are trying to help the person. Sometimes that's with your product. Sometimes that's not. Understanding that and truly trying to help them is a tenet of community.
What we also do in sales is we're not selling. Often we don't sell to our champions. We sell to, budget holder, RevOps often. And what we try to do is help them selling it internally that makes their job the best. So I think this is also we team up. We are in the same group, which you can maybe also call a small community, and then they sell internally for us because they are lovers of it.
Yeah, and we could dive into that aspect too. So selling today, at least medium or bigger deals, tends to have multiple stakeholders that might influence, that might work at, that might use the product you're trying to sell. So trying to help multiple people with their challenges along the way and creating that, we could call a community within a company, could be half a dozen people, or it could be a dozen people if the company is big enough, that are all rallying around you because you're trying to help them, will help the deal move faster, will help the deal get done if it truly is a challenge and they truly have a need.
And how can you combine social selling and community building work together?
Yeah, so anything you do, any conversation you have, whether it's social selling, community building, or you just meet somebody in the street or at the gym, what magnetizes folks and what really is the core of connecting with people is giving, period. I mean, our conversation before we even started recording, do you remember what I said? I just want to help, any way possible.
Yeah.
and hopefully that was valuable. And if it wasn't, we could recalibrate it to finding the value there. But the point is, whether you're social selling, whether you're making friends, whether there's, we say social selling, we say community building, there are tactics with, or strategies with, a goal in mind. But if we look at the core to connecting with other humans, right? Like whether you have something to sell with them or not, who are we most magnetized towards? It's people that are giving us value. And I hate that phrase in some senses, but like people that are helping us, people that are letting us talk, people that are listening to us, people that are trying to support us honestly, whether they have something to sell us or not. So you take those principles, and the principles of connecting with humans is a core principle in community building. And frankly, people are realizing, took them long enough, that that's a core principle in selling. Why? Because you're dealing with a human.
Yes, you're completely right. I see also for us, like our best seller is not someone who is coming traditionally from sales, who doesn't know what's his I don't know, MQL to SQL, what's the discovery question, all that he never heard about, but he's the best seller because for him the relationships are most important, and he's selling to big companies, and he's basically managing small communities at these big companies. So let's take Google for instance. We have 1,000 reps, and he's basically managing the community of these reps inside Google and leveraging our tool to help them do their job better, which is very interesting. And when you think about it, it's having these small communities in big corporations and managing them, which leads at the end to sales, which is quite interesting. And not a direct
and
sales.
Now with the advent of, or I don't want to say the advent, but with people being more active on networks like LinkedIn and Twitter, LinkedIn specifically for B2B, you have these communities in Uber in your example, but you're also posting for all of your, and maybe you're connected with those people on LinkedIn. You're generally posting on LinkedIn, let's say, and it's just really worthwhile content. It's not salesy for Surf or for anything. And you're having these communities of people in Uber, in another company see you and hold you with higher cred, because here's another opportunity. You're not trying to sell to them. You're giving value. They're also watching how many people engage, who's commenting. And if they know some of these people, or they hold some of these people in high regard, you're adding an extra level of credibility to who you are. You're not just a person emailing that's friendly. You're not just a person that's emailing that's friendly that like is friendly to 5 or 6 people in your company, but you're this person substantiated by the larger mass. So psychologically, you're the person. Like, oh man, like, okay, I think we should take a meeting with this person. I see their content all the time. I've had people schedule calls with me to buy from me, or seemingly just because they wanted to meet with me, like whether it was qualified or not. So that's a whole nother thing on the other hand. But when you build community, you get people that feel comfortable with you.
And how can you leverage these connections when you have a lot of connections and you have this community? How can you leverage this to hit your goals in a sales target, for instance?
So you need to be really careful, like with all your communications, right? Like you can't be friendly Jared 1 minute and then salesy Jared the next. You need to be authentic throughout. Now, how do you leverage that and still hit your goals? One, you need to figure out, with your process that you have, what does that lead to? How many meetings does that lead to? All of that. And you might need to bring more people into your network if you're going to have a laissez-faire type of approach, right? Because it builds that trust. I think there's ways to mix it, right? Like you could be direct and without being pushy and salesy. But the key is, how do you turn from person that's friends with everyone in the organization, that has problem fix. Somebody that on social has posts that people interact with, into somebody that's like demanding a meeting or for a deal to close. You just need to be conscious. Like, hey Dave, like, we sell this product, right? Too. Have you thought about that? Cool. Because you don't want to burn that relationship, but you gotta finesse it in. So like what I would do at FedEx years ago, I would go into my prospects and we would just build relationships. And then halfway through, I'm like, and they'd make me coffee. They were giving all their business to somebody else. Okay. But they'd welcome me in. And then I'd be like, we have to talk about business now, right? And he's like, okay, let's have a very direct conversation. Where do we need to be at? What's the value you provide? All of this. Boom, boom, boom. And if you could get to that level, and people say relationship building, you don't need to. And I do see that point, but I do think if two people are the same with process and one person's just a better relationship builder, I find it hard to believe that person's not going to be a better seller. You don't have to be liked. I get it. I love Keenan and gap selling and all of this. I hold him in very high regard, and I think he's right. But if you're that and liked, I think it's very, and building community, you don't have to be liked, but building community around a problem in your company, I think it's important.
Well, I think so too. And I mean, there's also a reason, 20% of the sellers bring 100% of the business and hit their quota and 80% not. So obviously tooling may help to a certain extent in technology to get this quota to a higher level. But at the end, the 20% are the best relationships. They anyway don't like follow a pure technology approach and helping hit my quota. So I think this will always stay with all the future AI developments. It's for human to human, and it's trust relationships.
And then what happens too when you have relationships and you're closing deals, then you're more likely to say, "Hey, Dave, I helped Lemlist build their community. I helped, like I did. They had these types of challenges. I helped lead Delta." You're like, those people are exactly the same like micro SaaS that I am. Like, tell me more, Jared. Like, and you see how I just connected there, like much. I didn't say I helped Amazon. I knew exactly, and I actually closed those deals, let's say. And you're going to be like, let's put 30 minutes down. What are they doing? How much is this going to cost for me to do the same? Where's the value, right? Like it's much more connected with everything. And because I'm selling more and I'm giving those real life experiences and being realer and more authentic back and forth, it's going to hit harder and you're going to trust me.
That actually translates very well to my last question.
Do you like how I just mentioned like lead Delta? Like I'm very close with the founder there, and and I know roughly like the price point and everything.
Yes,
and I'll tell you exactly how they're building community. Lemlist is wonderful, and I know that and I haven't worked with them, but like it would hit not in that capacity, but you get it.
Well, now they're doing like in Paris, they're all over the place and doing.
Oh, they're just a very, very smart organization.
Yeah. Very, 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 very smart. And we're next week at the offices for Growth Gala, where all the growth people in Paris meet. So you should come over one day if you should be in Paris.
Paris is underrated. Paris is not underrated. For technology, it's underrated. And I think Lemlist has really put it on the map, it feels. I mean, there's a few other companies too, but not in RevTech, really.
Yeah. No, we have, of course, like big successes. I don't know, Datadog, who went over from...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's a huge success story, and a few others. But I think, especially when you compare it in Europe, I mean, I'm coming from Germany, and you see the comparison between maybe Berlin and Paris. You have way more talent here because you have a lot of engineering schools around. It's a great place to start a company because you have support from the government. And you have a good bridge to the US, where you see a lot of companies kind of proving product market fit and in France, and then going straight over to the US quite quickly. So
Heck is pretty good. HEC, right?
Yeah, I was there. Yes, it's on the business side. On the technical side, like Polytechnique or NSTAR, you have so many. There's so many good talent, and a lot of talent stays in the country, but you see also a lot going to the US. Anyway, so I wanted to switch to my last question. You talked about like you need to be eager, like to create a community, passionate to create a community. How do you do that? How does that work for you, for someone else who wants to build that community?
When you're building a community, you're putting a bunch of people into a space or following a mission. Why are they doing that? Like, they're not doing it on their own. They're doing it because they like something, probably. Whether they like a product, whether they like a person. You need to be like passionate. And you need to have a lot of energy and make that community as like energy palpable and make it the place where people want to be. And you see some really great brands that do this well, like the Lavenders of the world, right? The Apollos of the world in our space. They both have leaders, whether they're community leaders or founders, that creates such energy and excitement, and people follow. Now, if you break it down, they have pretty good plans on paper, maybe even better than most. But what really differentiates them, or what really starts the plan off, I should say, is the energy of the founders, like the Will Allred's doing email breakdowns for Sales Hacker, them doing product hunt launches, DJing all day. Like, these are some examples of what he's done. There was the biggest party, I think, at SaaStr. And you don't have to necessarily throw the biggest party. Well, you don't have to throw the biggest party in reality, but proverbially, you kind of do. You have to bring everybody into the space and just be like, yo, this is it. This is, but there needs to be a purpose of sorts, right? Like, and the purpose could be simple, like SDRs aren't getting enough love. So like, we have a space just for SDRs because we believe SDRs are the most important part of the org. So our space treats them like that. As an example, now that's a movement. That's a movement. Sales development is so damn hard. It's harder today than it was a year ago, than it was 5 years ago, than it was 10 years ago, to the point where the sales engagement tools aren't working with the same effectiveness. You have AI now, you have all the stuff that makes sending emails and making phone calls easier, but people are getting laissez-faire with that. And it's causing SDRs to have an even harder job because there's more and more noise. On top of all of that, it's the entry-level role in many orgs, maybe even most orgs, right? Like maybe even all, but most for sure. And they're the lowest paid and all of this. And on top of that, there's not a clear path up. So I'm creating a community right now to bring SDRs, to the forefront, and to have SDRs help other SDRs get tooling, get recommendations, get growth hacks. I want to turn SDRs into growth hackers because that's what you have to be successful today. You can't just send an email. You can't just send 100 emails anymore. You can't. It's going to go into spam from one inbox. You need to be smarter. And my community is going to help empower that SDR and lift that SDR.
Wow. I think
that's an example, Dave.
And we are way more dependent nowadays on SDRs than we have been.
So see how you're already leading in? I didn't even create this community yet. And you're in. So because of the energy, the passion, the problem I'm solving, and everybody who's here, let's fucking go.
Yes, love it. It's completely right. I think...
Was that a good answer to your question? Did you like that example?
It's a very good answer. I love the energy, and I think you're completely right, because take also the guys from Lavender. It's we're hosting the first event with them next week in Dublin at Fastop. So I'm curious to see them in action in person.
They're cool.
But yeah, they kind of productizing themselves to a certain extent because they have been great at writing emails that get replies, and then they kind of help you and reaching the same by offering a product for this. Same with Lemlist, for instance. And I think this energy and then productizing themselves for the storytelling or story selling, this narrative kicks because it's based on own experience. And people listen to it and follow it because it's own experience and it's true storytelling.
But they're great community builders too.
Yeah.
They're pretty good community builders.
I will ask them for a few tips next week.
And and a company I advise is coming up and doing some similar stuff. Hockey Stack.
Yeah. Good stuff from them.
So I'm proud to advise them because they're following the playbook I know and love.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Jared. For everyone who doesn't know Jared RevGenius, make sure to follow him on LinkedIn. Thanks for your participation in the ebook. You also have a new newsletter on jaredrobin.com. So get sure to, I just signed up.
Yeah, come to it. So the movement there is connecting community to GTM. And that's important. And I'm figuring out how to make it even bigger and more powerful because it is the most important growth channel for a company.
Wow.
And part of that is because it's the most important channel for our lives. It's where humans are talking to humans. And to really ignite that gives you a moat like you wouldn't believe. You have growth loops that are spectacular, that are viral, that'll get you a lot of followers, subscribers, a lot of dollars, and that's important. But when you ignite community, you create that extra moat.
Yeah. I'm curious to see that we will also focus on that in our company building journey stronger. And thanks a lot for really this chat. I really found it very genuine, good energy, and I think for
thanks,
a lot of
David.
helpful.
This has been awesome.